In police stations across the country, officers start their shifts in the briefing room.
It's a place where law enforcement can speak openly and candidly about safety, training, policy, crime trends, and more.
We think it's time to invite you in.
So pull up a chair. Welcome to the briefing room. Hi, I'm Detective Dave.
And I'm Detective Dan.
And we have, of course, Dan's better half, Yeardley. Welcome.
Hello, Dav, as I like to call you.
Great to have you here. So today on the briefing room, we're going to be talking about school shootings. We're going to focus on school safety, specifically how prepared or unprepared our classrooms are for an active shooter. You're going to hear from two teachers who work in the state of Texas where policymakers have found themselves in the tragic shadow of the mass shooting in Uvalde that left 19 children and 2 adults dead. We're asking these teachers how safe they feel, what could be done better to prepare them, what kind of training they're getting, and what is their relationship to local law enforcement.
But before we get into the bigger conversation, I think you two should explain what the Briefing Room podcast is about.
It was Dave's idea. He should talk about it.
Happy to. I think for us, Small Town Dicks is so focused on individual cases. You know, they might be 2 or 3 episodes long, but an individual case, we talk to the detective who explains their investigation. Through this process, we were getting a lot of questions, and we had broader subjects that we wanted to talk about that impact law enforcement and their communities, but they're not case-specific. It's a topic. And it reminded me of sitting in briefing before your shift, where the watch commander provides background on what's happening in our city since your last shift. And in this instance, it's an opportunity for us to really talk about what cops are doing out on the street from day to day, why cops do what they do, and also to discuss where cops go out of bounds.
I agree. I think an unintended benefit that we've gotten out of this podcast is having an opportunity and a platform where we can educate the public a little bit on how we do business and why we do it the way we do it. Also, like Dave pointed out, there are plenty of examples of when it goes wrong. And I think this is a unique opportunity and platform to address some of those things.
And hopefully we can provide the answers to our listeners.
Do you worry that the briefing room might be too inside baseball, so to speak, like only for those who are in law enforcement or really follow law enforcement? Basically, who is the briefing room for?
The briefing room is for anyone who wants to understand the perspective of law enforcement. The first FTO I had, first field training officer I had, his name was Dan also. Dan instilled in me that we have an opportunity to educate when we're out on patrol, when we go to a call, when we make a traffic stop. It's not always about enforcement.
In a perfect world, the relationship between the public and the police is like we've talked about in prior Behind the Badge episodes. We talk about this social contract between the police and the public they serve, that if law enforcement is violating the terms of that contract, you lose public trust, you lose legitimacy. And in a perfect world, we work harmoniously. The community feels served, and they feel like they're a part of the solution. That's the perfect world. We don't live in a perfect world, but we can adjust, and that type of system seems to be fractured. I would say that it's obviously fractured.
In these tumultuous times, do you think that the briefing room could build a bridge between communities and policing, whether you're for or against police?
That's a tall order. However, I hope that the briefing room lends itself to a more trustworthy relationship between the police and the public, that we provide information that allows the public to understand where the police are coming from. Of course, the public has a say in how police departments move forward. We're serving the community. We're all on the same team. even though it doesn't feel that way a lot of times. I'd be living in a vacuum if I thought that the entire public thought that police officers were great and all we do is help people. It's clearly not the case. This is just an opportunity for us, our little team, to say, this is my experience in law enforcement, and all we can be is genuine.
What does it mean to you, Dan and Dave, to be veteran law enforcement officers?
We often talk about that it shouldn't be a job. Police work, it should be a calling. For me, a calling is something bigger than me. And I really think that law enforcement has an opportunity to benefit something bigger than themselves.
For me, I felt a calling to help people. I felt a lot of pride putting on a uniform that in a moment of chaos and uncertainty, I can show up and help people feel safer.
So the briefing room for us is about what it meant for my brother and I and people who work in the justice system, what it meant for us to do the job the way it's supposed to be done.